All right. Helps Missions is this Sunday and next Wednesday. And then on Sunday the 17th is regular services. And then come Sunday the 24th, we may have special service arrangement. Depends on what we'll see. I think there's more announcements about that later.
So
all right.
Sunday, we have Sunday school.
Yes. Regular Sunday. This Sunday and the following Sunday. Don't know about the 24th, but the 17th is a regular Sunday. I mean, Sunday school, Sunday morning, Sunday night, all that stuff. All right, we're on Psalm 57, and there's a handout up here if you'd like to have it. It's not a long psalm, but I was going to keep it short because I thought we were going to be putting the chairs up. The teens will be coming in later to do that. Nonetheless, let's have a word of prayer and we'll start. Dear Lord, help us tonight to serve and honor you, to learn something from your word, and live according to it, to praise you and to honor you, and to be the kind of representatives we ought to be for you. For the name of Christ I pray. Amen. All right, Psalm 57, to the chief musician, and the word there, alta shith, I don't know if I pronounced it right, but it means thou must not destroy, is what that word actually means. It is a poem, was written down and so forth, and David wrote this when he was fleeing from Saul and he was hiding in the cave. And we know about the story of when he's hiding in the cave. Saul comes in to cover his feet and Dave cuts the robe off of him, the skirt of his robe. And the skirt of the robe is important because that's where the mark of authority was. And so we miss that a lot of times. When David comes out of the cave later and says, hey, Saul, I've got the skirt of your robe. He's saying, you're not the king, I am. Because I've got the patch. I've got your identification, your insignia. And he gives it back. He says, I'm not your problem. I'm not a threat to you. And he gives it back to him. Okay? And he was doing that to make a point with Saul. Anyway, let's see. Verse 1 starts in this song. There would be, you see verse 1 and verse 2 of it, okay? And you'll notice here where where it says trust and refuge are in a little bracket. It's because the same word is translated both ways. And where you see up there where it says merciful, it's got a number next to it because merciful and mercy are similar, but they're not the same. And you can look those up there if that's out in your handouts also, but just to help you understand what those are about. So anyway, verse 1, David starts the psalm. Be merciful unto me, O God. Be merciful unto me. My soul trusteth in thee. Why should God be merciful? Because, the word for, or because I'm trusting you. Yea, in the shadow of thy will, I make my refuge. He says, man, I am there. I'm under, Floyd, you often talk about being under the umbrella. That's where I am. I'm here. I'm trusting you. And I'll keep doing that until these calamities be overpassed. I'm in a strait. I'm in a calamitous situation. I'm going to trust in you till the end. I'm not going to stop. And so you see here the one thing about merciful that's interesting. The Hebrew word used there actually infers a tense. It's to ask for mercy denotes that you understand you are of a lower rank. That's what that word merciful in Hebrew means. I'm asking for mercy. So when I ask for mercy, who's asking for it? The person who understands that the person that they're asking is higher rank. It's a statement of humility. Will you be merciful to me? Because I can't just do it the way I want. I've offended you. And so there's that inference there of the status line. And these calamities, elsewhere, the same word calamity, the same Hebrew word elsewhere is translated wickedness. Okay, in Psalm 45, the same Hebrew word is wickedness. And calamity just means bad stuff. Okay, there's more to it than that, but it doesn't matter. And it means to rush upon something hastily, you're quick to do things without thinking, and it turns out wrong. They're calamities, okay? Going on to verse 2. I will cry unto the Lord Most High, unto God that performeth all things for me. The Most High God is the one who takes care of some of the stuff. No, he performs everything, all things for me. Everything I do. David says, if I'm eating, if I'm drinking, if I'm sleeping, if I'm walking, if I'm working, if I'm looking at birds, if I'm singing a song or playing the harp, that's God working in me. And it would be very helpful for all of us to get to the point in our lives where we understand everything we do is because of God. We hear it sometimes in modern poetry, even older poetry, but we talk about somebody's the very breath I breathe. And that's actually what it's talking about. And the Hebrew word It'll sometimes talk about in my soul. It's my breath. It's my very being. And David says, everything I do is because of God. He shall send from heaven and save me from the reproach of him that would swallow me up. Now think about this. Everything I do because God is performing it through me, in me, with me. And he is the one who from heaven will send whatever it needs to be sent to save me from the reproach of those who are trying to swallow me up. Now think, my only hope is in the Lord. And oftentimes we'll say something like that, but David says, now stop and think about it for a while. Don't just say it. Don't let it just be a platitude. Think, consider it, meditate on it. God is my only hope. God shall send forth his mercy and his truth. And if we're relying on people to be honest and merciful and kind, that's okay, but how merciful and kind and honest are people going to be all the time? Even with the best of intentions and they're nice people and they love you, sooner or later something is going to turn out wrong. Something's going to be misunderstood. Something's going to be done without thinking about you, so forth. You're going to get offended one way or the other, but David says, no, God is always full of mercy and truth. So he says, save, he says, open it wide, deliver me, rescue me, and so forth. And here the word mercy, the one I want to point out there, is different than merciful. The person who's asking you to be merciful understands that they are of a lower position, because I have to go ask it. This one here says, you will send forth his mercy. And the word mercy there has a tense, I don't know if that's a proper word, but it has the understanding, mercy extends from the superior. When the mercy comes, it's coming down the course. I ask because I'm looking up. It comes because it's coming down. And so that's an important kind of thing to understand. And the truth, and the word truth means stability, trustworthiness. I can bank on this. It's foundational. You will send me the mercy that only comes from you, and I can build on it. It's trustworthy. David here, now in the next couple of verses here, I think this verse 4 is kind of interesting as it comes out in English. David here compares his enemies to lions that roar and lick at his wounds. Now we have to understand, we're going to read verse 4 and 5 and think it's talking about a lion, but in the English, we get a direct translation from the Hebrew. We don't get the idiomatic use of the translation. And so it can be a little confusing. We'll get the same understanding in the end run, but if you understand that the idiom is what he's talking about, not the literal word-for-word translation, it helps us here. Look what it says here in verse 4. My soul is among lions. So what's David now talking about? He's talking about being devoured by lions. This is an idiom, okay? And I lie even among them that are set on fire, even the sons of men whose teeth are spears and arrows, and their tongues a sharp sword. So we have this line in the middle there. They lie among them that are set on fire. But he starts with lions, and then he talks about the teeth. And the tongues on fire, set on fire, is the Hebrew words are used here as an idiom. So you look at, as we would say in English, the flames they're licking away at the wood and they're burning it up. That's what he's using that. And the literal translation, they say, well, it's like fire. It's set on fire. That's the literal translation. But he's actually saying, my soul is among the lions, and they're licking at me, devouring me, licking at my blood. And so we miss the idiomatic use, but we get a direct translation. And even though we go from lions to fire to teeth, we can still get he's in the bad. We get the idea he's in the bad shape. But that's one of those things where you have a direct translation, which this is, and that's good. And then you also have sometimes translations that are, I'm carrying the thought. And when you carry the thought, you have to be careful, because when you're carrying the thought, what if your understanding is a little, give me the words and I'd rather do it this way. Give me the word-for-word translation and let me understand the idiom. Because if I'm telling you what I think it means or what it's close to, I'm going to miss it. But it helps us here to understand he's talking about like flames lick at the wood and burn the wood up, the lions are looking at my body. That's what he's trying to say.
Isn't he comparing that? What is happening is that the sons of men, the soldiers, are after him.
Yep.
And they're after him like a lion that's licking his blood and wants to
Right.
devour. They have weapons of war like the lion has the teeth.
Right.
And so on.
And so, but it's interesting when you get to that, the word for word literal translation, they're set on fire. Well, it's really, their tongues are licking at me like a lion. So
Like a fire licks at
yeah, like a fire lick. So we missed the idiomatic usage. Okay? Be thou exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let thy glory be above all the earth. Rise up, be set up above. Your splendor, your honor is above everything. And so we look around here, and I'll be the first to admit, readily, in my studies in science over the years, the stuff we have here on earth is fascinating. I get upset sometimes watching nature shows because they'll always reference evolution. And there is no proof for it. There is evidence that some people think shows evolution is probably the case, but evidence doesn't say anything. You look at it, and then I say something about the evidence. And when you look at evolution's basic premise, it's not scientific at all. So anyway, I'm watching nature shows. I love watching the wonder and the splendor of the venomous snakes and the migrating wildebeests and the polar bears, and I think it's really great. I really enjoy it. I just get a little cheesed off because they keep saying, well, 75 million years ago, who was here? Okay. Anyway, I'll get off of that. But when we see the glory of the earth, it says, but he's exalted above. Think of the most intriguing thing you can think of. Doesn't even hold a candle to what God is like. You're exalted above the heavens, above all the earth.
Remember when the disciples said to Jesus, behold the temple?
No, behold the temple. He says, yeah, tear it down. I'll put it back together in 3 days.
It's not all that.
Yes. We do get fascinated by how much we think we've done. Mm-hmm. And God says, no, don't think of yourselves more highly than you ought. One day I was having my coffee at breakfast and I thought about a universe and it was there. What have you done lately? I made a cup of coffee. You know. So David finishes that, and now we go into what then is verse 2 of his song. Is how we would look at it today. And again, you notice there's fixed and prepared are in a bracket because the same Hebrew word is translated into both English terms. And to be fixed, we think, well, I'm fixing something broken. And that's not the tense of fixed. Fixed means a fixed position, bolted down. You're prepared. Okay, so like when you tighten up the lug nuts on your wheel, you're preparing it, you're fixing it, even though it wasn't broken. I'm just making it ready. Okay, so that's why it's translated both ways. Okay, and the word steps, we'll get here in a second. The word, he talks about his steps, and the Hebrew word it's the striking of an anvil. And he uses it like you're walking down a path. He says, yes, but like an anvil has a specific thing. I'm striking the metal on the anvil because I have a specific goal in mind. I'm getting to a place. And so the striking of the anvil is the word that they use for taking a direct course, a repeated action, a course of life is what he's talking about, not just I'm walking somewhere. Okay? So let's look at verse 6, starting in verse 2, as it were, of the psalm, in verse 6 of the psalm. They have prepared, they have fixed, elsewhere it's translated, a net for my steps. They're trying to catch me in the course of life. Now you remember in the book of Daniel, when the fellows wanted to get at Daniel, they couldn't do anything about Daniel. We'll get him in his devotion to God. That's where we'll get him. They've fixed a net so they can catch me, but the only way they can catch me is in my course of life. Now he says this, my soul is bowed down. I'm bent over. I'm in stress. And it's an internal thing. It's not just a physical thing. He says, I'm grieving in my soul. My soul is bowed down. They have digged a pit before me, into the midst whereof they are. They've dug a pit, and that's where they are. They want me to fall into where they are. They think they've dug the pit for me, but they're already in it. They've already fallen there themselves. Now think about that. Think. They're trying to trip me up, and they're already tripping over their snare. They're caught by themselves. What they're fixing for me, they can't pass. And then we see, it has nothing to do with this psalm in particular, but Jesus says to the religious rulers in his earthly ministry, he said, you make people do this and that and the other, and you can't even follow that. You make it harder to be a Christian, as it were. You make it harder to follow the rules than to serve God. That's insane. It's stupid. Don't do that. Okay? So you make these rules, you can't even keep them. Verse 7. My heart, though they have fixed their nets for me, my heart is fixed, prepared, O God. My heart is fixed, and I will sing and give praise. And the word praise here is also translated sing in other places. Okay? So you have, and there's the tenses of the words that make the difference as to what it's translated into. But he says, they fixed a net to catch me in my way of life, but my heart is fixed on you. And I will sing and give praise. And when we see here the word sing, the first time he uses it earlier, he says it's to vocalize, to actually make vocal music. But this word praise here, which is also translated sing, means to actually the musical part of it, the strumming. And so they go back and forth. So I will praise you musically. Okay? Awake up, my glory. Awake, psaltery and harp. I myself will awake early. I will praise thee, O Lord, among the people. I will sing unto thee among the nations. And here we see the word praise and sing and praise. They're different words in English, but they're the same in Hebrew sometimes. And I would say to you, I encourage you to do your own study on those, because it's interesting to see what they are exactly. The one that I use often as an illustration in the New Testament, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. The word care and careth are two different words. But they're translated care and careth, which in English, they're the same thing. And they're close, but they're not exactly the same. So it's a good study to do. So he says, wake up, my glory. He said, my weightiness, my splendor, what I'm good at. What was David known as? He was a warrior. He was valiant. He was a musician. He says, I'll take the things that are weighty on my behalf, my glory, my psaltery, my harp, and I'll sing praise to you. I'm going to give you the best I've got. I will praise you among the people. I'll praise you, I'll sing among the nations. And the word praise and sing are the same word there in verse 9. So I'm not just singing a cappella. I'm singing and I'm playing on the harp at the same time. But that's what I'm good at. So the admonition here is, what is it you're good at? If you're not good at something, don't do that. Find what you're good at and do that for God. Verse 10. For thy mercy is great unto the heavens, and thy truth unto the clouds. Thy mercy, the word mercy there, the word kindness. There's more to mercy than just being kind, but when God is merciful to us, he's showing us his concern, his kindness, his help. Okay? And mercy extends here from the superior to the inferior. And the truth, the stability, we talked about that earlier. Be thou exalted, O God, above the heavens, and let thy glory be above the earth. And here we see the tagline of the chorus, as it were, and that's we're getting to the end of verse 2. And so he says, you're exalted because your mercy is great in the heavens and your truth under the clouds. So be merciful to me. And that's the end of that psalm. So David is saying, I trust God no matter what's going on, because he's the one that can help me. He's the one that gives me stability. He's the one that I can trust. And I'll do it with the best I have. Okay? Any comments or questions?
Just one more.
Yes, sir.
I see a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah. In verse 9, he says, I will praise thee, O Lord, among the people. I will sing unto thee among the nations. That word nations means Gentiles. It's easy for us to sing and praise right here in church with everybody else. But he says, I'll do that out in the world. I'll do that where there are foreigners and there are strangers. And I will still praise you wherever I am.
Right, no matter where you go, what you do.
Not just
right.
in church.
And like I've said from the pulpit, and I know people have testified to this in church services here. Yeah, you're out doing something at the grocery store, the gas station, the soccer field, whatever it is, and you testify, you praise God. Mm-hmm. And you hear that sometimes anymore, the politically correct thing is, leave your religion at home. How? Yeah. Religion is not just a coat I put on when I walk into the church. It is a commitment. What did Dave say? They're attacking me in my course of life. Mm-hmm. I'm beating on the anvil because I've got a goal in mind. I'm making a specific thing. So you walk in and the blacksmith, that's what he's doing. And when you see him at the store, he's buying coal for the fire, and he's buying metal for the fire, and he's why? I'll leave that. It can't all just be delivered to the blacksmith shop. It's my life. It's what I do. You know. So David says, "I'll go everywhere. I'll sing among my people, among the nations." Very good. Anything else? All right. Let's have a word of prayer, and we will be dismissed. Dear Lord, again, we come to you and we thank you for your word. Help us to serve you. Help us to take the encouragement that we have. Lord, to me, it's at times seems almost, I guess, redundant that we have 150 Psalms. And a lot of them say the same basic thing. Now, why would you have somebody write down 150 of them? Obviously, it's something that needs to be said and repeated because repetition is the soul of learning. Help us, Lord, not to tire of them, but help us, Lord, to see them and learn from them and use them to glorify you and serve you. For the name of Christ I pray. Amen. All right. That's the end of the service today. The teens are going to come in later and put the chairs up, and I'll come up here sometime Saturday and make sure that they put them up. That'll be it. All right.
Share a testimony from yesterday?
Yes.